From the various descriptions and pictures in the ancient documents, we can infer that the Anunnaki were giants with a lifespan of more than 250,000 years. This long lifespan is consistent with the contents of another ancient document of the Sumerian civilization. That ancient document is the Sumerian King List. The Sumerian King List is a document that describes the rough history of the Sumerian civilization. The way it is written divides the Sumerian civilization into two periods, before and after the Great Flood. There were 8 kings in the pre-flood period. The total reigns of these 8 kings were about 250,000 years, which means that each king reigned an average of 30,000 years. After the flood, there were several dozen kings. The reigns of the first 23 kings were significantly reduced from 300 to 1,200 years each. If we only read the above information, we might conclude that the Sumerian king list is merely reliable. But the reigns of the kings who came after these 23 kings were reduced to just a dozen years, and the names and reigns of each king are highly consistent with the officially recognized historical documents. Taking this fact into account, it is believed that the Sumerian king list is not just a myth but reflects true history. In other words, it is highly likely that the Sumerian civilization had contact with the Anunnaki, who created the civilization of Earth. And it is highly likely that the Anunnaki and Sumerian kings who appear in the Sumerian classics and myths are depictions of them. Next, let's take a closer look at the Anunnaki and Sumerian mythology. There are various Anunnaki and each has their own mythological episode, but here I would like to introduce Enki and Ninkursag, who were most closely related to humanity. Enki means king of the earth. He is the god of life and water in Sumerian mythology, and is one of the important gods who gave civilization to humanity. His figure is half human and half snake. And Ninkursag is Enki's sister and also his wife, and is the goddess of reproduction and fertility. Ninkursag is also half human and half snake. The two work together to develop human civilization. In addition to the Anunnaki, who are the highest gods in Sumerian mythology, there are also lower-ranking gods called Igigi who were controlled by the Anunnaki. They mean watchers in Sumerian. At one point, these Igigi took rebellious action to break free from the control of the Anunnaki, but in the end they were all wiped out by the Anunnaki. There is also a story that Enki then began to try to create intelligent life to replace the Igigi. If we consider the story so far, it is possible that the Igigi may have been the civilization that preceded the human race, which was recognized as a failure. We will leave the story of Sumerian mythology here for now. But if the people who created the Earth's civilization were really the Anunnaki that appear in Sumerian mythology, then beings similar to the Anunnaki should have appeared in the ancient documents of other ethnic groups. In fact, beings that are clearly identical to the Anunnaki also appear in other mythologies. As I mentioned earlier, the Anunnaki Enki and Ninkursag, who were nurturing human civilization, were husband and wife and also brother and sister. And their figures are human upper bodies and snake lower bodies. Fuxi and Nuwa, who appear in ancient Chinese mythology as gods very similar to them, were husband and wife and also brother and sister. Furthermore, their upper bodies are human and their lower bodies are snakes. Fuxi and Nuwa work together to give humans wisdom and civilization. In Hindu mythology and ancient Egyptian mythology, there are gods who are husband and wife, brother and sister, and half of their body is snake-shaped. In Japanese mythology, there are gods named Izanagi and Izanami, who are husband and wife and brother and sister. There is no description of what their bodies look like, but it is said that the land, mountains, and seas that exist in Japan were created by them. As an aside, according to the Kojiki, the lifespan of ancient emperors was longer than modern times, and many of them exceeded 100 years. There are also stories from other countries' classics that ancient kings lived for hundreds of years. These also match the contents of the Sumerian king list. As such, it is thought that the Anunnaki, who created humanity in Sumerian mythology, had been passed down and worshipped in different forms by people all over the world. Furthermore, going back to the story of Igigi, the Igigi who tried to escape from the control of the Anunnaki, are thought to be the same as the fallen angels who rebelled against the God Watcher who appears in the Old Testament. From the above, it is possible that the source of all mythology is them, who had contact with the Sumerians. Like the Anunnaki myth, the creation of humankind is almost identical in the myths of various countries around the world. In the Bible, God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day, He created the human body from the earth. It is written that the body gained consciousness by blowing breath into its nostrils. This is the process of the birth of Adam, the ancestor of mankind. In ancient Chinese mythology, Nuwa, who has the upper body of a human and the lower body of a snake, created a human body out of earth, and by blowing breath into the body gained consciousness and humans were born. In Greek mythology, the god Prometheus created something similar to his own body out of earth. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, was amazed by the beauty of the work and gave it consciousness by blowing breath into it. In this way, myths that existed on distant continents long ago about the creation of mankind, as well as the Great Flood, have a common content. These myths are thought to be simple descriptions of the process of humankind's birth. From the perspective of humans at that time, the process of birth can only be interpreted as earth and breath. But if we translate this into modern terms, we can imagine it as genetic manipulation technology. What this means is that the earth probably refers to animals that did not have advanced intelligence that were available in the market at that time. And the breath refers to the DNA of a race called the Anunnaki. They may have used advanced genetic engineering techniques to incorporate their own DNA into the DNA of the animals, creating a new race with advanced wisdom on this earth. The reason they mixed with the animals is because, if they created a race that was completely on the same level as themselves, they would not be able to control it. The Feldagigi may have rebelled, because they had abilities close to the level of the Anunnaki. I think the part that is the same between us humans, the work of modern civilization, and the works imagined by the 4 previous civilizations, is the part of breath. In other words, both us humans and the works of the 4 previous civilizations have some Anunnaki DNA. However, I think it is highly likely that the part of Earth is different. In each of the 5 civilizations, the Earth of us humans is probably primate animals. In previous civilizations, there may have been a race of reptiles, like dinosaurs, that were the Earth. The reason for this is that the creatures that reigned on Earth in the era before humans were born were dinosaurs, and as those with good intuition may already have noticed, there are rumors of humanoid reptiles that are well integrated into human society, which are often told in urban legends. Maybe urban legends like the reptilians suggest that species from previous civilizations are still surviving on the present Earth. I said earlier that the purpose of the Great Flood was to erase the previous work. The fact that the urban legend of the reptilians still remains may mean that the Great Flood at that time was not able to completely erase the previous work. Their spaceships still remain in an exquisite place in the satellite orbit of the Earth, and were given the name Moon by the people on the surface. Do the anti-gravity devices inside still exist? Do they or something they left behind still exist on the Moon? Are we accustomed to their perfect work? And why did they create a civilization on Earth in the first place? Please share in the comments section. Thank you for watching today.